Hey, first grade. So this morning for today for phonics, we're going to learn about wild colt words. And no, these words have nothing to do with a baby horse, because that's what a colt is. But these words are a little bit like wild colts because they don't like to follow the rules. That's why they're wild. You cannot tame them. Okay, so let's first look at these set of words. And I want you to read these words with me with the short vowel sound. That's why I put a brev above the vowels. So let's go over the vowel sounds, the short vowel sounds. We have I and ah. I and O short sound are I and ah. So let's read those words with the short vowel sounds. We have blind, end, o, ald, and talled. Do those words sound like real words that we use? No. Boys and girls, this is why we call these wild colt words, because even though they don't follow our phonics rule, when a vowel is followed by a consonant, it makes the short sound. They're not going to follow that rule because they're wild colts. And there's a lot of words in our English language like that. So we call these wild colts. So these are not going to follow our phonics rules and be a short sound. They're going to have the long sound. So let's look at the words and let's read them again, but saying the word with the long sound. So remember, the long vowel sounds are I and O. Okay, so let's read the words with the long vowel sound. Blind, find, old, and told. Do those sound like words that we use? Yes. So, boys and girls, the tricky thing about wild colts is that you have to, it's kind of tricky to know when the vowel is going to say that have the short sound, like our normal phonics rule, or when they're going to be kind of a wild colt and say the long sound. So, if you see a word that has a vowel by a consonant, just like blind and find and old and told, say the word with the short sound and the long sound, and figure out, and whichever one sounds best, the words that we use, that's how we say it. Okay, so just try reading it with both the vowel. Read the word with both vowel sounds. Okay, so let's do some more practice with our wild cold words because there's several words, and sometimes our words uh, can uh, can be long and short. Right? So let's see. We have our first word right here with my little red circle. We have kind. Kind. Now, is kind also a word with the short sound? Let's try it. End. Is kind a word? No. So kind is just the wild colt word with the long I sound. Now let's try the second word. Let's first say it with the short sound. Willed. Willed? No, that doesn't make sense. So let's say it with the long I sound. Wild. Wild. Is that a word? Yes, just like our wild colt word. That's why we call it a wild colt word. Now let's look at our third word. Let's say the word with the short I sound. End. No, that doesn't make sense. Let's say the long I sound. Find. Find. Find is a word. Find is not. That doesn't make sense. So it's find with the long I. That's a wild colt. It's not following our phonics rule that says our vowel makes a short sound when it's followed by a consonant. These are breaking the rules. You cannot tame them. That's why they're wild colts. So these are the long vowels. All right, now let's look at the next word. I see a digraph. Do you see it? It's the CH digraph. What does CH say? Ch. Good job. So let's say this word with the long I sound. I. old child. That's a word. Let's say it with the short I sound. Ch, ild, chilled. Now that's not a word. Now we do use the word chill, but that word follows our phonics rule with our floss rule. Remember our double O at the end. So this word is not that. This chilled is not chill like I'm chilling by the pool. Because that would need, if this was chill like I'm going to chill and hang out, that would need two L's. So for child, we need to pronounce it and read it with a long I. Child. It's not talking about chilling. Okay, because that's spelled completely different. So this is child. Wild Colt word. Now let's look at the second word. Now, what do you notice in this word? I see a digraph at the end. Remember our double S? Where we need to underline it because those S's are going to come together and just make one sound. We only need to pronounce. We only need to read one S sound. So we'll just say it once at the very end. And our E will be the short sound because that's our floss rule. When we have a double S, then the floss rule tells us our vowel makes the short sound, right? And then then our I is going to make the long sound. So let's sound it with the long I sound. Blindness, 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 blindness. So that's talking about when you can't see. Or I've been blinded. There's a blindness, the light. Okay, now let's try to read it with a short I sound. Blindness. Blindness. Now, that doesn't make sense now. So it's going to be a long I. Okay, and we have the short E on the second part of the word, the second part of the syllable, because there's two vowel sounds. Okay, let's look at our last word. Right? Do you see any digraphs in this word? I do. It's our SH at the very end. What is the SH sound? Shh. Okay, now good job. And our I at the end is going to be the short sound. Okay? And then our O is going to have that wild Colt sound. So let's read it with the long O sound. Ready? G. Old fish. Old fish. Now let's reverse it and try to say the word with the short O, just to see if we're right. It's long and it's a wild cold word. Galled fish. Is galled fish a word? Does that make sense? No. So gold is a wild cold word and it's going to have the long vowel. Now, what do you notice about these wild cold words? What vowels are not following the rules? That's right, the I and the O are not following the rules. So if you see an I and an O in a word with two consonants after it, it might be a wild cold word. But go ahead and read it with the short sound, and then the long sound, and make just to make sure, because there's some words that could be wild colt and some that are not. Okay, but typically our wild colt words are the vowels I and O that are followed by two consonants. That means that come after our vowel. Okay, now sometimes a word might make sense when said with a shortened sound vowel. Okay, there's an example in our story today. Okay, so this is our story. I want you to read it, and I want you to listen to me read it, and I want you to read it with your grown up at home. Okay, so let's start at the very top as we reread from left to right. Wild colt words are just like real wild colts. No matter how hard you try to tame them, they do not do what they are supposed to. I think they just have minds of their own. Is this minds? Can it also be said with the short I sound? Let's see. Inns, mint. No, it's the wild Colt word. Minds of their own. You can't hold them down. You can't scold them. Wild Colt words are bold and do not follow both rules. We wind the clock, but the cold wind is blowing. We can't forget about words like sold and fold and grind and gold. We really need them. So I guess we will let them be the way they are. Wild Colt words. Oh, there's an exclamation point, so I need to say that with excitement. Wild Colt words. Okay, pay attention to those punctuation marks. And then you're going to read that at home with your grown up and then answer the two questions. Number 1, the first question, what do these words act like? What are the name of these words that can't be tamed? And number 2, name one wild Colt word that can have a short or a long vowel sound. Right? So go through and look at these words that are bolded and say the words with the short sound and the long sound. And whichever ones that sound, if they sound good and they make sense with long and short, then those wild Colt words can have the short or long sound. So you're going to go and read them. Can wild be willed? No. Can colt be cult? No. So that wouldn't be an answer for number 2. Okay, so go through all the words that I have bolded, read them with the short vowel sound and a long vowel sound and see if that word makes sense with both short and long vowels. Okay? Remember, wild Colt words are words that have the I and the O vowel in them. Okay? So that's your assignment for today on Canvas. And you're going to read this, answer the 2 questions, and turn it in. Okay? And again, if you can't print, that's okay. And if you can't do it on the computer because it's hard to write, that's okay. You can always write on a piece of paper and take a picture of the piece of paper. Okay? So have fun and practice your reading, boys and girls. I'm so proud of you. Keep it up.